Welcome back, guys. In this video, we're going to review the maintenance items we took care of in 2021, compare the costs to 2020, and talk a little bit about what our plans are for maintenance in 2022. I'm back on happy hours, and as you can see, or maybe you can't, we are winterized and on the hard. The boat is shrink wrapped, and we're pretty much all done for the winter. Last year, this past summer, we had a really successful year with the boat. We didn't have to do as many maintenance items as we did the first year to get it up to par. And if you guys followed me back then, you had seen my review on the number of maintenance items that were performed on the boat. In the first year, we had happy hours and the cost of that boat. So I'll leave a link up here if you want to review that. But I just wanted to go over the maintenance log from this past year and give you an idea what kind of maintenance we had and the costs that it hit us for running the boat this year. So I'm going to start with our maintenance items that started in January of 2021. We replaced the idle air control muffler on both the port and starboard engines. I did make a video on that if you wanted to check that out. I'll leave the link on the description. So in February last year, 2021, we started working on the aft cabin floor. That was a major project. We had some rotted wood floor in the aft cabin. We had to rip all that out, pull up the carpet, put down new plywood, did some fiberglass work, glassing of the new wood, put down a new like a soft teak type of material, a foam marine grade material on the floor rather than put a rug on it again. So that was quite a bit of work, a lot of labor, but it wasn't very expensive. I did the work myself. Yeah, material, labor, the plywood probably cost the most out of the whole project. Maybe about $75 now with wood, lumber being what it is. The fiberglass that I purchased, that was also, so I'm thinking all in all maybe $250, $300 for the entire project. So not too expensive there either. Next up, in April of 2021, I started bottom painting. That was with the ablative paint from West Marine, the ACT ablative, which worked very well. No barnacle at all on the bottom of the boat this year. Just a little bit of a slimy type of whatever, algae, whatever you want to call it, that just got pressure washed right off. But no hard fouling on any of the anything on the hull or the running gear. Had zero barnacle on it also. We are in relatively fresh water, but the year before I did have some barnacle on the hull. So this ACT seemed to work good for us last year. We replaced all the zincs on the boat, put the new shaft zincs on the 1.5-inch stainless steel shafts. That's 2 of those. We also replaced the large plate zinc on the stern. We removed the thruster props, the bow and stern thrusters, replaced the zincs on those as well. We placed snaps on the sun pads for the new bow cushions. That was really didn't really cost anything for the bow cushions we purchased already, but we just installed the snaps, just drilling them in and installing them. We compound and wax the hull as we do every year. Also in April 2021, we replaced the old TV antenna on the arch. The new one is now compatible with the new HD TV channels, which works out pretty well because we pick up a good dozen or so channels that we could watch, free TV. So that comes in handy every once in a while if you want to watch TV, get some news and stuff like that. Let's see. Oh, there's a big one. In May of 2021, just before we went in the water, we installed the Hurley H2O davit system. That was not a maintenance item, but that was something I wanted to do for the boat to enhance its function here and put a dinghy on the back. So again, that was pretty involved. The Hurley H2O system, I believe, costs around $1,500 or so. Plus you'll need parts and whatever else you need the hardware to install it. But that was done in May. In June of 2021, we did some generator choke adjustments, no cost there. We did clean the generator flame arrestor also, which really no cost to speak of, pretty much soap and water and an air gun. In July of 2021, we installed a new 12-volt outlet in the salon. Again, not a maintenance item, but to enhance the functionality on the boat. Let's see, we also replaced the holding tank vent filter charcoal on the vent tube coming from the holding tank. I modified that. We could just dump out the old charcoal, put the new charcoal in. Next up in July, we replaced the bridge stereo speakers. The old speakers were all dry rotted out. The cones were all cracked. So we pulled those speakers out and put new stereo speakers in. Now we're getting towards the end of the season. We changed the oil on the generators, on the engines. We changed the generator impeller on the Kohler generator. Changed the plugs on the Kohler generator. Checked the anode on the generator for the zinc anode or the aluminum anode, whatever it may be, and that was fine. So I didn't have to replace that. So that lasts 1 year, and it looked brand new. So that was pretty much it. So we changed engine oil and the filters on both the engines, put fresh oil in it, and that was the only maintenance items that we did. For the most part, they were all enhancements. They weren't really maintenance. Adding outlets, adding the davit. That I don't count that as musts, expenses. So our expenses this year on the boat were really low. It did help. I did a lot of that work myself. I did all the work myself. I generally do all the maintenance on the boat myself, so that saves a lot of money. Okay, so we're coming up on 2022, and I do have a list of items that I wanted to work on before the boat goes in the water next year. Just want to go through them quick. I wanted to check the exhaust manifold risers on the engines. They don't appear to be in bad shape, but you really can't tell looking at the outside of the risers if they are in good shape. This has been predominantly a freshwater boat, thankfully, so everything is pretty good shape. We don't have a lot of rust and corrosion because you don't have the salt air, you don't have the salt water. But I want to check those risers. I want to take one of them off and just take a look and see how one of the risers look, and if there's any, the orifices in those risers, if they're starting to get rusted and closed, they get restricted, and that reduces the cooling efficiency. So if I take one off and it looks like it's starting to get corroded, it's likely they're all going to be the same. So I'll just replace them. But if I pull the one off and it looks good, I'm probably not going to do that job because that is expensive. These risers, thankfully, it's two separate. It's got the raw water is separate from the cooling, the coolant of the engine. So the manifold itself is cooled by the engine antifreeze, but then the riser where the exhaust comes out down into the out of the boat, that is the raw water, and that generally is what will rust. So I'm going to check that, but that's a major job. Could cost a couple $1,000 just in parts for the two engines, and then we have whatever other items that may come up with that. But we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to check that. I want to check the cutlass bearing. That should be simple. Just got to get myself a 2x4 and wiggle that shaft around and see if there's any type of play with the cutlass bearing. I don't know when it was changed last. It may be the original cutlass bearing. Same thing with the risers. They appear to be original. But the boat was lightly used. I have about 600 hours on the boat, 650 hours now. But I want to check that out to see if there's any wear on those cutlass bearings, and we'll replace those if that's the case. The propellers, I like to pull those off. They look in pretty good, decent shape. I had run aground lightly, soft grounding I'll call it, where it did scruff them up a little bit. I had hit some debris on the Hudson River. It's horrible. You get some large logs. I hit a large log about a year ago, which I had a slight vibration. I can't really see much of a bend in the props, but I want to pull those off and get those checked and refurbished and have them, I may even change the pitch on the impeller, on the propellers, go from a 21-inch to a 20-inch, but I got to speak to the guy when we bring them out there. The PSS shaft bellows, they look to be in good shape. There's some rust on the clamps. I'd like to replace those clamps, and depending on what goes on with the cutlass bearing, I may pull those off and either replace the bellows themselves and do the rebuild kit that the PSS company sells. So I'm going to be looking further into that. When I go to pull everything out and realign the shaft motors and all, which I want to check now that boat's out of the water, I want to really align the shaft and motors correctly, check them out to see if they're in right alignment. The impellers for the raw water pump on the engines, I want to replace both of those. I replaced them the day I picked up the boat, or I bought the boat. That was a stipulation to replace the impellers. That was we're coming up on 3 years of those, so I'd like to replace them just to be safe. Also, doing as I was inspecting down in the bilge, I noticed that some of the exhaust hoses for the generator seem to be getting dry rot and cracked. So I'm going to replace a couple of those. The 2-inch hose coming out of the generator itself to the muffler, that one I'd like to replace. That's about 5 feet or so of that wet exhaust hose. And then the smaller 1.5 inch hose coming from the muffler to the through hull, to one of the through hulls, the one for the exhaust fumes, the top one that's above water. That's showing some cracking also, and you don't want to have fumes or water coming into the boat, obviously. So those are 2 items you're going to work on also. So those are the major items I want to work on this year. There's nothing else. Again, knock on wood. The boat's been great. It's running great. Just a couple, it's wear and tear. A lot of these are just wear and tear items. It's an older boat. It's 2006 341 Meridian. And, things tend to go bad. You got to stay on top of them so you don't get hit with a huge bill or get stuck somewhere. So those are the items we're going to work on. And it'll be a busy winter. And it's going to be a big year coming up. We're hoping, Bridget and I, we're hoping to move out of New York and get a house down in Florida on the West Coast. We've been looking quite a bit. And if all goes well, we will be taking happy hours down with us to the West Coast. So keeping fingers crossed with that. It's a bad time to be looking for houses with the prices the way they've been. But that's our plan, and it's one of the reasons why I want to get this boat running well, because we're going to take it from New York to Florida. So that's a long trip. I like to take my time going down and enjoy it, smell the roses as we go, and I want the boat to be running well. So that's all I got. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments section. Do appreciate it, everybody who's following along. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.